Hi, thanks for downloading the Garden Fork Radio podcast. This is Eric, your host. Garden Fork Radio is basically kind of an eclectic DIY show about cool stuff I find out about or something I want to share with you all. It can be cooking or gardening, home repair, beekeeping, building cool stuff. I want to learn more about welding, so we'll talk about that. And stuff like that. It's the companion to our gardenfork.tv video shows, which you can watch on our website and on YouTube. Today, we're going to talk about something a little out of maybe left or right field, meditation. One of my co-hosts, Rick, and I have been both doing meditation, and we kind of stumbled upon it independently, and we keep on threatening to do a show about it. We've talked about that. So today's the day we're going to talk about meditation. You may be skeptical, but I'm just asking you to take 20 minutes out of your car ride here and listen to what we have to say. You know, Rick will say it in his way and I'll say it in my way. And then let me know what you think. It's radio@gardenfork.tv. All right, here we go. So, hey, Rick, welcome.
Oh, good morning. How are you, my friend?
I'm good.
You know, I built two of your hoop houses with the wire.
Uh-huh.
I've got pictures. I need to put those up and show them to you. Did mine a little differently, but then they turned out beautifully. I just got all kinds of things going.
Cool. Also, somebody built the maple syrup evaporator from the Garden Fork plans and sent me some pictures, so I'll be sharing those as well.
Wow. And, you know, I've forgotten how wonderful fall gardening is here. It's really, in many ways, just preferable to spring gardening in almost every way. You know, the greens are growing beautifully. The Swiss chard is going to be my go-to plant, I think, now for every season. It goes year-round here. And, you know, it makes a good stand-in for spinach. It will wilt well enough in the wok to be like a spinach. And it's kind of my stand-in for chards, which sometimes are not chard, but collards. And so, you know, you can kind of use it both ways. And so it's just a good green, leafy green to use all the time.
Cool.
I'm really impressed.
So today we're talking about meditation. We alluded to this a couple times in the show, and I thought Rick and I would both kind of tell our stories about how we came about this. I thought it was interesting that we both came about it independently and kind of arrived at the same place. So
Yeah, it is kind of interesting.
I actually came about it in a roundabout way. A couple years ago, I bought a book called Wherever You Are, There You Go, which is a book about, I think it's called Zen meditation.
Right.
And I didn't quite get it. I was just like, well, what am I supposed to do here? And they're like, you know, empty your mind. And I'm like, I can't empty my mind, you know? And it even came along with a recording to do some meditations, but it was just this ringing of a bell to start it and to end it. I'm like, what is this? You know, so I put it away. I actually put the book out on the stoop, which is how I recycle books. And then I saw a Google talk by Dan Harris, who is, I believe he's with ABC. Is or CBS?
One of the big channels.
And he talked, basically he went to Google, a Google talk is where Google invites different people to come and talk to their engineers. And he had a anxiety attack on national television. And she plays the clip, and you can't quite tell he's having an anxiety attack. You can just tell that he can't say the words on the teleprompter. But it took him through a journey of trying to figure out what was going on, to the point where he drank a lot and did a lot of drugs. And then finally he ended up with a psychotherapist, and the psychotherapist kind of put him on a path toward dealing with his anxiety. And he just, I guess, discovered meditation, and then he ended up writing a book about it and becoming something of an evangelist for it. And then I watched that talk, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And he talked about what he calls monkey brain, what I call the hamster wheel in my head.
Yes.
You know, some guy cuts me off, and I'm pissed at him, and I'm grinding my teeth. And what would I say to that guy? You know, or someone at work is like being an unkind person, and I'd be like, it would be with me for days, you know?
Right.
And I thought, this has got to stop. So I went on the web and I typed in meditation app, and up came Headspace, which is a app created by Andy Puddicombe and a team of engineers and creative people. And it's a free app. It allows you, it gives you 10 days of free meditation to learn how to meditate, and then you buy into it if you like it. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, but I liked how Andy was basically kind of a wacky guy. He was from Australia. He was in the Moscow circus, I think, and then he was a monk.
He's been a Buddhist monk in like dozens of different monasteries. I mean,
Yeah.
he just went around. He traveled around studying different meditation techniques. All over the Far East.
And then he came back to the States, and I'm not quite sure the creation story here, but started Headspace. And I was attracted to it because it had animations that kind of explained what was going on. And he said it's okay that the voices come back while you're trying to meditate. You just let them go and go and focus again on what's called focus on the breath, basically.
Right.
And so it made it much more approachable to me. So I did it for 30 days, and I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell my friends. I just found 10 minutes a day when no one was around, and I did it. And I started to feel less of that grinding hamster wheel thing.
Right. Yes.
And then I bought into the app. It's I don't remember the price, but it's not cheap, but it's cheaper than therapy,
Yes.
Therapy is at least $100 an hour. So, and I really like it. I use it almost every day now. They have several different subjects, how to deal with depression or acceptance either of a loved one or an issue. The list goes on.
Yeah,
but
anxiety, sleep, any number of things.
And they also have very simple ones like quick 5, 10, 15-minute quick meditations that aren't dealing with a subject. And I use those a lot because I'm just like, I didn't meditate today and I don't really want to deal with anything, but I'll do a quick 10 minutes. And it's made quite a difference for me. So Rick, how'd you come about it?
I have been flirting with it off and on for decades. And so I started meditating, and then I ran into Andy Puddicombe, and I bought into the Headspace tape as well, or app a few years ago. And after I saw him on a TED Talk, the Headspace app itself we're just in this golden age now of research into the mind. We can look inside the mind with functional MRIs and see what happens to people while they're meditating, actually see the changes in the brain. And you can actually, now that we're all distracted by all these electronic devices, I know I turn off the computer most of the time when you and I are talking because I cannot talk and look at the computer. It will, I'll just start following the little animals, everywhere. So it helps me to focus, to turn off the computer. And in many ways, that's kind of what meditation is for your life. It allows you to focus on just one thing and do that one thing and do it well, and then move on to the next thing. Now, there's been a lot of backlash I've noticed lately in the press by people who obviously have no clue about meditation. And they're saying everybody's supposed to, if everyone's in the present, who's thinking about the future is kind of the tone of these things.
Yeah.
And they just don't understand. It's being present now to think about the future, if that's what you need to be contemplating. It's being present now and thinking about the future, and not also worrying about the kids, worrying about the dog, needing to get the bank run, doing all these different things. It's focusing on what you're doing right now, that one project, and getting it done, doing it well, and moving on. And that's what meditation has really helped me with.
It also allows you to let go of the past.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Like, why'd my neighbor plant that tree there? I've been that guy.
I have been that person as well.
From the Headspace site, headspace.com. By the way, you can buy the app or use the guided meditations on a computer or a laptop with their website. On Focus, they said neuroscientists have found that after just 11 hours of meditation, practitioners had structural changes in the part of the brain involved in monitoring our focus and self-control. Researchers have found that compared with people who didn't meditate, those trained in meditation stayed on task longer and made fewer task switches. So in other words, they were more focused, like you just said, instead of looking at shiny, bright things on the computer.
Right. And it's really helps. It's changed my way of doing things. It used to be I'd get into these flame wars on different boards or sites
Yep.
about politics or whatever. And now I have just learned to say, I think we understand each other's position. Feel free to have the last word. And I just drop it and walk away.
No good.
Yeah, that just, I mean, that's new for me in the last couple of years. And it's because I see now what's happening and that I was actually enjoying the battle, the being angry and being worked up and I was enjoying the being roiled by it. And that's, generally what, if you sit and turn on the big TV stations and the 24-hour news channel, that's pretty much what they're doing is keeping you roiled up all the time. Our brain is not designed, frankly, to live in today's world. There's a little part of your brain called the amygdala, and it stimulates that fight or flight response, and it squeezes out hormones that rush to your arms and your legs and gets them ready to run if they need to or to fight, and it pulls the blood away from your head and your internal organs so that you'll have lots of blood to work with. And when that's good if there's a tiger in the bush. If somebody yells tiger and it's right there next to you, that's good because you'll need to run. But your amygdala cannot tell the difference between the tiger that's in the bush next to you and someone yelling tiger that's in the bush 3,000 miles away. And so you stay in a state of constant near panic in a lot of ways. You stay worked up all the time if you keep the TV on. And it's actually designed, the bright colors, the overlarge heads, the somber tones, the dramatic music, the warnings about graphic violence or graphic scenes. It's all designed to squeeze that little amygdala of its last little bit of hormones to keep your attention and keep you in a state worked up all the time. So I'm learning to control that as well.
Again, from the Headspace site, they talk about stress and says, according to neuroscientists, as you continue to meditate, your brain physically changes, even though you're not aware of it reshaping itself. Mindfulness meditation activates the rest and digest part of our nervous system, helping with stress management. Another criticism meditation has is that it takes your edge off. Like if you're a Wall Street trader and you meditate, you're not going to be as on point. And I really disagree with that. I think it'll make you more focused, actually. But we both use the Headspace app, so we can talk about that better. How do you like that? Than the Happify app. But I really like that Dan Harris kind of brought me to this, and I believe he's part of Happify. Happify has some neat videos on YouTube that we will link to. But what I like about the Headspace app is like they have a series for depression. They have a series for anxiety. They have series for a number of things. So if you're having an issue with depression, first do the beginner steps, like the baby steps of meditation, and then you can launch into the depression one. And I think it'll make a big difference for you.
Well, it certainly cannot help or cannot hurt. The military now is teaching meditation, and they're actually using it with the ground forces. Back when we had a lot of ground forces in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it was helping them to respond, not react. And so they responded to a threat or a perceived threat, but they didn't react the way they used to. They used to be just, finger on the trigger and blasting away. Now they responded in a more appropriate way because they could actually separate themselves a little bit from their emotions and see what was happening and not just And so it was more appropriate, and it actually helped them a lot to learn to respond rather than react. It's helped me a lot. I wished I had this training many decades ago.
I think it just generally makes you a better person.
I think so, but how could we tell, because you're such a good person anyway?
Well, I always warn people when they meet me in person, I'm really kind of boring. You know, it's all in the editing.
Yeah. The other thing though is meditation, and people will complain about this all the time. If you go on the Headspace app website,
They have a community there.
there's a community. Everybody has a community, and they'll say this is boring. Well, it's supposed to be boring. I mean, it's training, and it's repetitive, and it's doing the same things over and over. Andy in the earlier parts of the tape walks you through each step, but you're doing the same thing over and over. And essentially, it's taking your attention and bringing it back to just that one thing, the breathing. And when you wander off, you don't get mad, you don't get angry, you just bring it over. That is the practice, bringing it, noticing when you're getting up off.
When your
task.
mind starts to wander.
Yeah, when your mind starts to wander, bringing it back. That is the part that you're learning to do. And it's boring. It is, you have to learn to do that and appreciate that that's the only thing you're going to be doing. And people are complaining constantly that it's boring, but that's the point. It is boring, but once you learn to do it, it reaps enormous benefits for you in all kinds of ways.
I don't think of it as boring at all. I think it's kind of a goal-oriented thing for me. I mean, I used to never be able to sit still for longer than a minute, you know, and I just have to get up. And then this is I can sit still for 15 or 20 minutes now. You have to turn your phone off. It's kind of funny because the app is on my phone, but the phone is constantly dinging with some messages or something. So there's a do not disturb mode on the iPhone, and I have to turn that on.
Right.
And then run the app. It's just kind of funny because you're in the middle of this kind of, you're doing you're just thinking or not thinking or sitting there, and all of a sudden, someone sends you a text message, and it's kind of a jolt. So,
yeah.
If
I turn mine off.
My suggestion, like if you have kids and you're having to get them out of bed and get them, dealing with that all day, is this might sound insane, but wake up 15 minutes earlier and just do a 10-minute meditation.
Right. I begin my day with meditation, and then an hour of writing now, and then some reading, maybe if I can work it in then. And I get up pretty early so that there's nothing else going on in my life. I don't even turn on the computer. If you turn on the computer, all is lost.
You're toast.
Yeah, and particularly if you open email.
Yeah, the Headspace people recommend doing it in the morning. I found they have these animated videos before the beginning of every subject, or I guess a category. And then Andy has these little recorded videos as well, where he talks about the beginning of this one is about blah, blah, blah. And it's just kind of neat. And the animations, I think, are very helpful in making me realize that everyone else has this stuff that comes into their brain as well. And just kind of, when you find your mind wandering while you're meditating, just kind of, you acknowledge it and you just kind of let go of it and you come back and focus. It's called focusing on the breath, but like when I breathe through my nose, it makes a bit of a sound, and I focus on that. My eyes are kind of almost looking at my sinuses, if that makes sense with it. Sometimes it helps if you kind of stare out. Your eyes are closed, but you stare up and out. What isn't good, I don't think, is actually lying on your back, because I've tried to do it that way. I think it's better if you're sitting with a chair that has a back on it.
And then you wake up 2 hours later.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we're pretty much toward the end, so we want to talk about Dan Harris's book, 10% Happier.
Which is a very good book.
Yes, it's well worth the read. The Joy of Living, which is an excellent book on meditation. And one of my favorite books on philosophy, which is very, very accessible, is called A Guide to the Good Life by William Irving. And it is a superior book. It's not deep, and it's really how to live a really good life. And I love it. I read it once a year, as I do the Joy of Living book, just to to help myself. And now I'm adding the Dan Brown or the Dan Harris book to my repertoire of books that I read once a year.
And we'll link to those. Also, I have Sharon Salzberg's book, Real Happiness.
I haven't read it yet.
I like the Dan Harris book because he's always questioning a lot of stuff. It's like, well, what about this and what about that? So.
Yeah. And all of this it's not woo, and there are no gongs and bells and that kind of stuff.
It's just regular people.
Yeah. It's not, it's not religion based or theology based or anything. It really is just kind of science. And it's even interesting that although we don't have in the West, a lot of meditative traditions that we talk about in that way, both the East and the West kind of came to the same conclusion from different paths about the same time. It's just that we call it prayer and they call it meditation, but generally a good silent prayer is pretty much the same thing. So it's interesting how that works. But when two cultures can find something that common and good working for them, I'm all for it.
There you go.
Okay. Well, you have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. I stayed out of the way. I just showed up. That was my best way for me.
Excellent.
And you had your early Thanksgiving, and the Weber Grill turkey looked great.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. We're going to do that again in fact, I already have our turkey for Christmas. I'm not sure when we're going to cook it yet, but it's just a wonderful way to cook a turkey. And, the thing we did, and we've gotten in the habit doing the last several years, is we prepare a meal or a dish a day starting about a week before, so that everything, we cook the cornbread, let it sit out for a day or two, and then we make the dressing and we put that in the refrigerator, and then the different side dishes and whatnot. So really, when it comes the day of whatever day we're going to eat, it is just warm things up, brown and serve rolls, and bang, that's it.
There you go.
Cook the turkey and we're on. And that actually helped because I screwed up the cornbread dressing, and if it had been the day of, I put baking powder in it, or baking soda in it instead of baking powder. I wasn't paying attention, and it came out really bad. And so we had to redo it. And if you have to have a redo on the day of, you're going to be really unhappy. So it's nice to screw up in the early part. Okay.
All right, cool. So anyone, if you have thoughts about meditation or questions, it's radio@gardenfork.tv. That's radio@gardenfork.tv. Rick, thanks for taking the time.
Oh, well, thank you for asking me. It's good to hear your voice, my friend. It's been a while.
And we will talk to you all soon. See
ya. Bye-bye.
Garden Fork's theme music is used under license from uniquetracks.com.